Welcome back. We are now going to begin your notes. Like I had previously mentioned, you should have these written down before the video starts. So if you have not already done so, please pause the video and write them down. Now, like I said, we are going to be factoring, hence why we did that in our warm-up. But we are going to be factoring with a greatest common factor, also known as a GCF. So what does that mean? That means that we need to ask ourselves every single time we're factoring if all three of the terms have a number in common. And if there is a number, we need the biggest one they have in common. So, number one, 2x squared minus 16x plus 32. Well, the biggest number that goes into this term is 2. So can 2 go into 16? Well, yes, 16 is even. Can 2 go into 32? Yes. So I'm going to pull out my 2. When I pull it out, that means I'm like dividing or taking it away. So if I take away this 2, what am I left with? X squared. So if I divide 2 into negative 16, I have negative 8x left. So it's like I'm cutting everything in half. And then 2 divided by 32 would be 16. Now, you are going to factor using these terms. So notice we got smaller. This is now a coefficient of 1. So we're going to put the x squared here and the 16 here. Just like we did before. First term in first box. Last term in the last box. So now we're going to multiply them. X squared times 16 is 16x squared. Now, what numbers multiply to 16? 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. We need it to add up to negative 8. Hopefully you're seeing that 4 and 4 can add up to 8, but not just positive 4 and positive 4. Not positive 4 and negative 4, because that would be 0. So my only option is negative 4x and negative 4x. Now, just like normal, I pull out my greatest common factor. So you guys have already been practicing with the greatest common factor. And I have x minus 4 and x minus 4. Now, the thing that you cannot forget is that your greatest common factor must be put into your answer. So that is my final answer. Number 2, is there a greatest common factor? What's the biggest number that goes into all 3 of those terms? Well, if you caught my hint, it is 4. So 4 goes into all 3 of them. So if I pull out a 4 here, if I take away this 4, I'm just left with n squared. If I do 20 divided by 4, leaves me with 5. And then 24 divided by 4 leaves me with 6. So now, excuse the fan. My first term goes here, and my 6 goes here. I multiply. I get 6n squared. What numbers multiply to 6? 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. We needed to add up to 5. Well, 1 and 6 definitely can't add up to 5, but 2 and 3 can. It doesn't matter what box you put them in. Now we pull out our greatest common factor. Now, the reason why we pull out a greatest common factor is because it's going to make the problem a lot easier for us, and it's going to make the numbers smaller. We could have left it the way it was, but then we would be multiplying 4 times 24. That's a really big number, and you guys don't like big numbers, so that's why we pull out the greatest common factor. Now, like I said in the first one, you just have to remember to put it into your answer, and there you go as your final answer. Okay, 6 more. All right, number 3. Now, 2 terms here, so we can do this a couple of different ways. We're going to do it by the greatest common factor way to start. So what do these guys have in common? Well, if 9 is the biggest number that goes into this term, can 9 go into 36? Yes, it can. 4 times. Now this is 2 terms though. So what do we put in the middle when we're missing that term? We put a 0 there. Now you put your first term in the first box, and you put your last term in the last box. So we need it to add up to what this time? 0. So what numbers multiply to -4 but add to 0? 2 and -2. Oh, I'm going to get a little tight, but I got to pull out my greatest common factor. This one's going to be an x up here, and this one's going to be a 2. So I have x minus 2 and x plus 2. But my answer is not right. I pulled out this greatest common factor to start, which means it has to go in the answer right here. Okay? Oh, no, this one's getting hard. It's no longer going to be this number that goes into this term and this term. 18 cannot go into 8, whatever you do. And 8 cannot go into 18. So we need to come up with numbers that go into both of these and the bigger one. Well, we know they're both even, so 2 can go into it, but can we see if another number goes into it? Well, 4 goes into 8, but not into 18. 6 does not go into 8, and 8's the next number. So our greatest common factor would be 2, and we divide by 2, so we get 9 here, minus 4. Now we're missing what? We're missing the middle term. So we need it to be 9x squared plus 0x minus 4. Now I'm going to multiply. I get -36. I need numbers that multiply to -36, but add to 0. You guys come up with it yet? Well, we're stuck because you should get 6 and a -6, right? But 6 times -6 gives me -36. And there we go. Oh, I did not put that there and that. -6x, +6x. Now I pull out my greatest common factors. So my first column, 9 and 6. Well, 2, 3, and 6 can go into 6. Can 2 go into 9? No. Can 3 go into 9? Yes. I'm going to pull out a 3x. So if I pulled out a 3x there, a 3x is going to go there as well because 3 times 3 is 9. Now, -6 and -4, -2. And then this one would be a 2 as well. So I've got 3x plus 2 and 3x minus 2. Not done because I need to bring down my greatest common factor of 2. Okay, one more. All right, let's pull out our greatest common factor here. They definitely have a 3 in common. But there's something else that these guys have in common. How many x's are right here? 4. How many x's are here? 3. How many x's are here? 2. So they all have at least 2 x's in common. So my greatest common factor here is 3x squared. That can go into every single term. Now, if I take the 3 away and then 2 of the x's, how many am I left with? 2 x's. What's 24 divided by 3? 8, and then I still have an x left over because there was 3 here. Then 3 can go into 27 9 times, and I already took away both of the x's. Put them in my box, and I multiply. I needed to add up to 8, so my options are 1 and 9, and 3 and 3. Sign of the bigger number 9. That's going to be -9. This is going to be +1. Now pull out your greatest common factor. Sorry, you can't really see that again. And we've got x plus 1 and x minus 9. But you have to bring down your greatest common factor, so that is my final answer. Okay, number 6 looks exactly like number 3 and 4, so I want you guys to pause the video and try that on your own. Go. Okay, I pull out a 6x squared. Then I have x squared minus 100 left. I need numbers that multiply to negative 100 and add up to 0. So it's like you're always looking for the same number but opposite sign when you have something that's a 0 here. So 10 and negative 10, doesn't matter where you put them, but you know you're going to pull out the same ones. So I got x minus 10 and x plus 10, but I am not done because I must write my greatest common factor right next to it. Okay, number 7, go ahead and pause the video and complete. Okay, that's what you should have got after you pulled out the 2x squared as your greatest common factor. This one's super easy. Got to know what numbers multiply to 28. That's one of the ones that you learned when you were younger. 1 and 28, 2 and 14, and the good one, 4 and 7. Why do I say that's the good one? Because that's what I'm looking for, because 4 plus 7 gives me 11, which is my middle term. Remember, you always pull out the same numbers that you put in here. You're writing them a total of 3 times. Final answer. Am I right or wrong? X plus 7, x plus 4. Hopefully you're saying wrong because I need my greatest common factor. If you guys do not put that in your final answer, you're going to be marked wrong. Okay, last one. Go ahead and pause the video. There you have it. Now that you are done with the notes, you may check your answers and you may go ahead and complete your exit ticket now. If you have any questions, you may come to my office hours or email me. Have a good day.